is taking place and who is present. Obviously, some questions may vary depending on whether the person is interviewed was a civilian during wartime or a military career. For the record, what is your name?
Christopher Mcginley.
Good. Were you ever in any war?
Yes, I was in the Gulf War.
Okay. What did you do before you joined the service?
I joined right out of high school.
Good. Where are you living?
Right here in Florida now. Where was I living, or where am I living currently?
Where are you living currently?
Oh, right here in Florida. Lake
Okay,
Worth, Florida.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Good. Where did you choose your branch of service? Why did you choose your branch of service?
My brother had graduated the year before I did, and I went to his graduation and was quite impressed.
Tell me about your first days in service, or how did you get your civilian job?
My first days in service?
Can you hold on?
Did you want to get out like after the first days? Like,
Yes.
I'm through, I'm done.
Yep. Sure did.
What made you stay?
Every day that you were there, it became a little bit better. And I worked it all out. I mean, you got to figure after you leave high school, it's the first time you're on your own. First time you're experiencing stuff for yourself. You're being yelled at.
Were you intimidated at all by anybody else there besides the drill sergeant?
No, not really. I mean, they did enough intimidation for everybody. They did a pretty good job by themselves.
Was it a lot of physical workouts, and was it a lot of like physically demanding?
Yes, ma'am, it was day and night.
How often did you guys work out a day?
I'd say 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe, including days and nights.
Dates and memories. Where did you go on? How was like the wars or whatever that you were in?
How were they? Well, I was in a neo-ops that was out of Monrovia, Liberia, in Africa. That was good. It was very successful. We were on the Saipan.
Did you ever shoot anybody?
Can I pass on that one?
Sure.
Thank you.
Were you scared holding a weapon?
No.
So it just came naturally?
No. You kind of taught to hold a weapon, but when push comes to shove, it's you or them.
Where did you serve?
In the Marine Corps. I served in, I was aboard the USS Bella Wood, the Saipan, the Incheon. I was in Saudi Arabia, I was in Africa, I was in North Carolina, I was in South Carolina, I was in Washington State, California. I did a Westpac in Japan, and 2 med cruises.
What place, if you could, where would you go back to? All the places that you just named, where would you go back to?
South Carolina.
Why?
Because it's nice there. It was one of my more peaceful duty stations, I guess.
What was your job assignment?
I was a CH-46 helicopter crew chief.
So you're out in the helicopters?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, my first one was, I was an infantryman. And then when I re-enlisted, I made a lateral move to be a helicopter crew chief.
Tell me about your most memorable experience.
Coming home from the Gulf,
I bet you're relieved.
I was relieved. It was nice to be back home, be back on American soil.
Were there many casualties in your unit or your ship?
There was a couple.
Tell me about the food and provisions that you guys had.
Oh, wow. The food on boat wasn't so good. The food in Washington State, I was aboard, I was security on the Naval Submarine Base, and the food was fantastic. The food on the boat was fantastic at times, but the longer you're out at sea, the
You might want to go home.
no, the more they tend to lose all the fresh stuff like fruits and stuff like that. The food in Japan was not so good. So basically, I ate.
Yeah. How did you pass the time?
I'm playing cards or watching TV, movies.
Did that ever let you guys dive off the ship?
No. No.
It's not like in the movies, like they.
No, it's not like in the movies. You'd break your neck. No.
How did you stay in touch with people at home?
You know what? It's funny that you asked that because I was talking to my brother Sean the other day. My brother Sean was in Iraq just recently, a couple of years ago, or about a year or two ago, and he got to email his family and everything like that on a regular basis. When I was on boat, we didn't even have computers or cell phones or anything like that.
So you guys did not write letters?
Well, we wrote letters, and fortunately enough, I was a 46 crew chief, so occasionally we would climb up to 10,000 feet in a helicopter, and we'd get on the radio, and we'd call this place called Ascension Radio, and Ascension Radio would connect us to an AT&T operator, and the AT&T operator would call the house collect, and after everything you said, you had to say over. So it's like, hey, how are you? Over. And then she would have to say, fine. And then the operator would get on and say, remember to say over because you're utilizing airways. But it was pretty amazing. I mean, to see it go from a radio to a telephone to the United States all the way over in Africa.
How did you celebrate holidays?
They did their best to celebrate holidays. Usually it was just food and, steel beach parties is what they call them.
What skills or lessons did you learn?
Oh, everything. I got my airframes and power plants license, which enables me to work on civilian airplanes. A lot of leadership classes and training. Engine stuff, military training. I mean, just everything. I was a wreck going in and came out with a lot of knowledge. Didn't even know how to balance a checkbook until I left there.
Do you recall the day you left the service?
The day I left the service, yes I do, in North Carolina. It was sad for me.
How was it emotionally for you?
It was sad. The service was always a protection blanket for me. I mean, it was kind of like your father, but you had a little bit more leeway. You were never asked to go get the belt. Or you were never, you were grounded if you did something really bad, but leaving, it's a good security blanket. It really was.
Do you recall any of your sergeants or anybody who taught you any of the life lessons that you learned?
Staff Sergeant Johns and Staff Sergeant O'Brien were my drill instructors, two people you never forget. Staff Sergeant Ferreira. Lieutenant Costello was a great guy. He was a pilot when I was in the Air Wing. I recall plenty of them. Sergeant Fitzsimmons, Sergeant Dutton, just a great bunch of people.
If you could see them there, what would you say to them?
Oh wow, I didn't. Now that's what I wish I would have read the questions before you asked them. Wow, I don't even know. With the internet and everything nowadays, sometimes some of them just pop right out of the middle of nowhere and give me a call. And I still keep in touch with one of them, my avionics man, my backup crew chief when I was in the military, and L.R. Pierce. And he just retired as a warrant officer a little bit ago, and I was just thinking, if I only would have stuck with it, I could have been retired a long time ago.
What did you do in the days and weeks after your service?
Wow, I moved from North Carolina to Maryland, and I worked at a shipyard, and it was cold.
Do you continue? What was your career after the war?
Wow, well, I worked at the shipyard for a little while, and then I became a security guard for MBNA America, and then I progressed from security to working in their hangar on their airplanes. Then I got my AMP license, and they sent me to Maine, where I ran the hangar out there, and then they sent me back, and I became an aviation dispatcher.
How did your experiences contribute to your thinking about war and military service?
Pardon me? I'm sorry?
How did your experiences contribute to your thinking about war and military service?
There's a lot of stuff you learn in the military that you kind of sort of take with you in the civilian world. How did it contribute to it?
Yeah.
It helped me to be a better leader and a follower, and to, keep it simple, take it slow, and try to absorb as much as you can.
If somebody were to ask you about joining the military, what would you tell them?
It's a decision. I have a friend of mine that his son was considering going in. His dad is against it, and he really wants to go in. And it's a decision that the individual's got to make. It really is. I work at a VA right now where I work in a nursing home where you see guys with no legs every day. I mean, they gave them legs for you to be able to sit here and tape this. But it's a decision. There's a lot. It'll help you to grow and stuff like that. And the way I explained it was, to his father was, when he's 18, you don't really have a say in it anyway. You grow up fast, and immediately, in my eyes, they're the best people in the world. They're the most powerful, honorable people in this country right now. They believe in themselves, and they believe the country and in God.
Did you go to college during your time in the service?
I attended some classes, but for the most part, no.
Do you attend any reunions?
I was invited to one, but I did not attend it because it was in Arizona.
Are you a member of any veteran or other organizations related to your service?
No, but I was. I'm associated with the VFW and stuff like that, but I'm not no more now.
If you don't mind me asking, how do you feel about the war in Iran?
How do I feel about in Iraq? No, and I don't mind you asking. That the troops over there are doing a phenomenal job. They've given it everything they got. I don't think that the troops over there are getting a fair shake on the behalf back here. I also feel that we're not really getting that much progress out of the Iraqi people to take over their own country. I feel it was the right thing to do, and the reason I say that is because after 9/11, if we did nothing, we would, one, be attacked again, and two, be shunned upon. Whether it was Iraq or Afghanistan where we're supposed to be, I think that as of right now, the United States is in severe trouble on its own, and that maybe we should kind of sort of focus in on the United States and get us back on our feet before we tend to go in the other direction. I don't think it was a wrong thing to do. Absolutely not. But I think after this period of time, enough is almost enough.
Do you agree with him pulling out soldiers so early, or at this stage in the game?
Yep.
If you could, would you fight beside them?
Yes. Absolutely.
No questions asked.
No questions asked.
If you could say anything to the soldiers right now, what would you say?
God bless you. You know, you guys are great. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, God bless you.
If you could start an organization for the soldiers and the people who have lost their lives and are like their lives are in shambles because of the war, would you?
If I could start an organization? Yes, I would. If I could, yeah. If I knew how to, I guess you could say yes. I could do that.
Well, thank you for doing this interview. It was very selfless and very brave of you. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely no problem. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Can you talk about the war in Panama that you were in?
Yeah, it was a conflict. I was one of the first units to land there. I was with I Company, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines. We landed there. We were there for 8 months. It was actually pretty scary. We showed up there, and it was the canopy was triple canopy jungle, so it was very dark. We rotated where we lived a week out in the fields. We were protecting the fuel farm that actually fuels the ships that go through the Panama Canal. And then it was very interesting. So you'd work a week on, and you'd have a couple days where you got to sleep in the gym and air conditioning and stuff like that. It was extremely hot. I remember the CBs coming out, and they would hook up a hose and they'd put holes in it so that you could take showers in the field. So that's how hot it was. And at night it got extremely cold, and it was very, very dark. And I was with my squad one night, and we were out patrolling, and we were being probed by the Panamanian Defense Force. It means that they were teasing us by just like probing our lines is what they call it, and trying to get over and then running back into the woods. And I was sitting there and I was talking to a guy next to me, and I remember he put his tin cup up to his mouth, and he had his cup shot right out of his hand, and that's what started the initial firefight in Panama. And I remember running after them, and I fell over a cliff, and I counted the only thing I remember was counting myself down, counting like 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I landed, and I had stepped my foot in two, and they couldn't come get me until the next morning because it was triple canopy jungle. There was no way in and no way out. But that's initially what started the firefighting over there. We came off the mountain the next day. Pretty interesting. And then the other time that I saw some combat was in Africa, just by the rebels. They pretty much stayed away from us, but we could see them going at each other. And then when we went over to Kuwait, the night of the ground war, it was pretty interesting. We were a flight of 6, and at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the thing I remember about Kuwait is at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we were flying, and the only thing you saw was a little beam of light, and that's where the oil fields were. So it was just like that much air as you're flying through it. You couldn't really see anything. So we all went to the briefing the morning of, and then we sat around. We had to wear NBC suits. And my biggest fear, I guess, in Kuwait was being attacked by a chemical. I mean, every night you'd hear the sirens go off that a scud was coming down. I mean, that really scared me, because it's one thing to die quickly, but when you have a blister agent or something on you, it kind of sort of eats away at you, and then until you finally expire. But it's not a fun thing, mustard gas and stuff like that. But I remember standing in my NBC suit, and it was roasting hot out, and you're sweating, you're waiting to go in, and then we finally, after about 8 hours, got the call to kick the tires and light the fires, and we started up, and we were traveling in, and what goes through your mind initially, if you're just sitting around, is man, I mean, did you take care of everything at home? I mean, what would people think if, you died tonight? Would everything be right? But once you get going, the adrenaline starts to pump, and you don't really realize what's going on. I just remember seeing little pops of firecrackers and stuff like that around our whole flight, and didn't find out till later that they were SAM missiles that they were firing up at us. Thank God we had a good crew in our flight. I remember I had 2 Jeeps on my helicopter that we kicked off over the line. And I remember doing several medevacs that night. And I can't even remember everything. I mean, it was just such an incredible thing, just going from adrenaline to no adrenaline to adrenaline back to no adrenaline. I don't know if you recall in time the picture of all the vehicles that were destroyed on the road and stuff like that. Well, I was in a flight that had to clear that. And when we cleared it, there was nobody there. There was no soldiers, no nothing. But it was really weird because the cars were still running. They had just evacuated their cars because we just didn't want them leaving. The Iraqi soldiers, they weren't really soldiers at all. They were looters. They had no purpose there, and all the cars and the tires at the airport and stuff like that. All the tires were taken off the vehicles and burned because Saddam didn't want them retreating. And in their fighting holes, they had stuff that we take for granted. I mean, like little dollar store trinkets, and in the back of the vehicle were dollar store trinkets and plastic clocks, and tons and tons of ammunition that wasn't used. They just picked up and left. It was pretty interesting, and I have pictures and everything that I'll be sure to get to you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, I have a whole kit and caboodle of the whole enchilada. It was pretty neat, and that's pretty much it.
Do you like being a civilian?
Do I like being a civilian? Has its advantages and disadvantages. When you're in the military, you get a place to sleep. You get 3 meals a day, and you're never going to go poor. You're never going to go hungry. You're not going to make it rich. You always have a job. And then when you go out into the real world, the military tries their hardest to give you the tools to work with to be a success in the real world. And if you don't take what you've learned and utilize it out in the civilian world, it's just not going to work.
Was it hard for you to adjust to life outside the service?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
It's just a totally different ball of wax. I mean, from being told, from knowing what you're supposed to be doing to having to make a decision to what you're supposed to be doing are 2 different things. The military for me was very structured, kind of sort of structured my life, and for the first maybe 2 years after the military, I guess you could say I was kind of in cahoots with not really, I guess, not really having anybody to answer to. You know,
What was your ranking before you left the service?
I was a sergeant.
Is it hard to gain ranking in the Marine Corps?
At the time it was, yes, very hard. I had a crew that fell under me. I was a squad leader, and I had a crew that fell under me, and I had a great crew, actually, so I never really had to be macho, rough, tough, can't get enough, you know. It's amazing because one of the things that the military does teach is that you can't go at it alone. From what I understand now, they have a crucible in boot camp, and you have to utilize teamwork in order to accomplish some of the stuff that you need to accomplish. And everywhere I went, and everything I did, I was blessed with the best people in the world. There were no slackers. Everybody pulled their weight, and nobody really got in any serious trouble.
Do you miss being a Marine?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Why?
Basically.
Why do I miss being a Marine? Just because of the structure. It was a good thing. I do and I don't. I mean, there's good parts and bad parts. Yeah, I didn't like going on 20-mile humps or anything like that, but it was just part of the job. Huh?
It's all part of the ball game.
Yeah. It's all what you make it.
If there's one thing that you wish you could have did different in the military, what would it be?
Not a thing.
That's good. You don't get anything you did in the military. Nothing.
Nope. You got to understand that, the guys that I worked with and the people anybody I ran into, their love of this country is just phenomenal. And trust me, we didn't see combat compared to what they're seeing today, or the men of Vietnam and stuff like that. We didn't see it to that extent, and for them guys to be doing that, I mean, every last one of them's a hero. I mean, just I couldn't even imagine. I had no kids until after I got out of the Marine Corps, and I can't even imagine not being there when my kids were born. And you have guys that are doing that every day, sitting in dirt, not getting word till 2 days later that they were like, that you're a dad. I mean, it's just the sacrifices they're giving. I mean, they go way beyond what the scope of what meaning you think that they're giving.
Well, thank you again.
And thank you. It was a pleasure.
That was a pleasure.